All right, looks like we are live. I want to welcome everybody to Standing for Truth. I am your host, Donnie. And on SFT, as you know, we focus on the truth of biblical creation. And tonight, we're going to be doing a walkthrough for the release of the Standing for Truth official website. So that being said, it's great to see a nice chat even at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I appreciate it, guys. Before we actually get into the walkthrough, and we're also going to be debunking some arguments that I've kind of seen in some videos recently, as well as in some comment sections, mostly repeated talking points when it comes to carbon-14 and the radiocarbon that has been detected in samples, apparently millions to billions of years old. So we're going to deal with that, leave no stone unturned, as well as challenges to the separate ancestry model pertaining to Homo naledi. So some people are wondering, is Homo naledi an example of a transitional-like form? Is Homo naledi an ape-like creature or human? So we are going to touch on that as well. So Lucas says more like 8 a.m. Well, we've got people from the future in the chat then. So Seppo says 9 a.m. here. Saved by Grace, good to see ya. Reminder, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, we have Dr. Grady McMurtry. So he's going to be here with us tomorrow for a 2+ hour audience Q&A. So Dr. McMurtry, he was one of our first interviews that we did. Must be going on 2.5 to 3 years ago now. And he has a ton of information on almost any topic. So any question goes when it comes to creation, evolution, the flood, age of the earth, age of the earth from science and scripture. So it's going to be an extensive audience Q&A, guys. So please bring your questions. Logical, plausible, probable says SFT somehow managed to navigate web development somehow. It wasn't easy. Thank God I had you, John. So my personal mentor. I know it's not easy answering all these questions that I typically have when it comes to computers and technology. So John, you crack me up, brother. So that being said, tomorrow, Dr. McMurtry, that would be Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, Professor David McQueen is going to be back here with us for a presentation titled Evolution is Useless. So that's going to be fun as well. As always with Professor McQueen, we will be having an audience Q&A. Then the very next day, we have an epic Age of the Earth debate between CJ Cox and Skyout. So that's definitely going to be one to remember as well. So Wesley Coleman, good to see you, brother. Andrew Graham, good to see you. Heart Green, good to see you. Montaz, good to see you as well. So that being said, why don't we get right into it, just so we can make sure that we're also going to be touching on these arguments from dating methods, specifically carbon-14, as well as the so-called hominin, so-called example of human evolution, Homo naledi. So we'll get right into the walkthrough. So we are pumped, all of us at Team Standing for Truth, we are pumped to introduce to you our official website. And I'm going to share screen here so we can have a look at it, guys. Okay. So here it is, Standing for Truth, Creation Ministry, defending the truth of biblical creation. So it just went live, and that means it probably won't be indexed by Google for another maybe 3 days to a week. And then it should be easily discovered through Google. Okay, so the goal was to make this as comprehensive as possible. Now, I mean, we've got 100 or more links here answering all your most common questions and arguments. That actually reminds me, if anybody has not seen our 2-part series debunking, really just decimating these arguments from both old earthers and theistic evolutionists on so-called speciation and how young earth creationists believe in young earth creation. There's too many species today, apparently. Definitely check out that 2-part series. It's getting a ton of great feedback. Well over a couple thousand views in it's a 2-parter. So check those out. The critics, it's quite funny because clearly they are so uneducated and unsophisticated in this topic that they still don't necessarily understand the arguments that they're putting forth, and therefore they don't have the ability to actually make a counter. Okay, so definitely check those out, because I have heard the repeated talking points when it comes to speciation, which I'm not going to get into tonight because we've debunked it ad nauseum. That's why I just want to point out, for anyone interested, just go check that series. It's over 4 hours. It's a 2-parter. Ram, Adam, myself, we really go through the data. We go through technical papers, testable predictions. So I'm just going to be checking the chat periodically from the cell phone. So if there are any questions or anything like that, let me know. Obviously, I can't check it from here because I'm screen shared, but I will check. I will check the phone. And Green says, to make a monthly donation, you need a PayPal account. I'm so lazy. I'll do it tomorrow. No problem. No problem. There's plenty of ways to help us out, to help keep us going full time, help keep us bringing you the best interviews, discussions, debates, and really the most content. And we want to be as thorough as possible. So you can support us even just by sharing our material, hitting like, telling other people to like, telling other people about us. You can donate through our donate box, which is through PayPal. You can also become a Patreon. You can support us just through YouTube, watching our videos, donating through Super Chats. You guys, as I point out all the time, are the life and blood of this channel. So you guys are the reason why it is even possible to get an official, website like this. You guys are the reason why we are able to put on so many debates and interviews, because, these things definitely can be costly, and you guys are really helping out. So God bless you for that. So that being said, as I pointed out, Patreon's right here. So become a patron. Right off the bat, you can visit the Standing for Truth main YouTube channel. You can also go check out the Young Earth Creation channel from here. And Steadfast and Easy gives a $5 super chat. I appreciate it. It says, keep it up. Awesome. I appreciate that. Caleb says, got me some dank SFT black rimmed glasses from zennyoptical.com. Epic, brother. You better send me a picture rocking the SFT glasses. So, and I see comment from Call Me Emo says, oh, it's easy. You can't limit the actions of omnipotent being. So one thing that Call Me Emo unfortunately fails to address is the fact that when we started from a plain reading of scripture, we start from Genesis, and we know that Genesis and the Bible essentially is the history book of the universe. So starting from that position, we can make retrodictions and predictions, which don't have to turn out to be true. And yet we've spent hours and hours and hours and hours showing exactly why they are true. And this is exactly why the critics can't counter the predictions with better predictions of their own. So yes, good to see peeps. Call me email. Good to see you, Luca. Good to see you. Doki Doki in the house. Okay, so let's keep this going. So so you can access both our channels from here. You can access the Creationist Clothing Store as well, where we still do have articles. We still do have lots of material there. This will obviously take you right to the Patreon page. So who we are, defending the truth of biblical creation. The Standing for Truth Biblical Creation Ministry exists to defend the Christian faith and proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ. We focus on providing answers to questions pertaining to biblical creation. and Christianity. So this is not the only answers we have. These are not the only links we have. But for people who may be new to the website, new to the ministry, I thought it'd be a good idea to have answers to common questions, refuting common arguments, because oftentimes we do deal with the same arguments, answering the same questions over and over again, which there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people who come to faith are struggling a little bit. They often do have the same questions. I know I did before I came to faith. So we put that here at the side, just so somebody new comes to the website and bam, they've got a ton of material right off the bat that they can look at. So what are Neanderthals? And what I like too is we've got a lot of answers to questions, answers to objections, but I myself have participated in roughly 80 to 100 informal/formal debates. We've also hosted well over 100 debates. I've hosted, moderated well over 100 debates. So what's nice and I think different about our ministry is we will oftentimes answer an objection, answer a question. Okay, so we got here, what are Neanderthals? We'll give you an answer. We'll answer the objections, but right underneath, we got a Neanderthal debate, a debate I've participated in. I've participated in roughly 3 formal debates on that topic. So we can show you that not only we at Standing for Truth, we can give you an answer, okay? We can answer an objection, answer a challenge, but we will show you that we can back up those answers in a debate with the critics, okay? We're not afraid to take the critics on directly in a debate and show you the power of the biblical creation model. Okay, so endogenous retroviruses, did birds evolve from dinosaurs? Is there evidence for human evolution? So depending on what it is, evolution or devolution, it may be associated with an article. Okay, so if you click this, it'll take you to an article that either myself wrote or Ramat. We are going to be uploading a lot more articles as well moving forward. That's a huge goal of ours. Okay, so praise I am, good to see. Good to see. I appreciate that. Landon Freeman, good to see you, brother. Awesome. I appreciate that, Doki. Yeah, definitely share around the website, guys. Share it around on Facebook. If you're in groups, share it around there. Okay, because answers to all your questions, and we're still uploading material, still uploading videos. Okay, so this would take you to an article. Mammal-like reptiles, right? People like James Downard, their favorite arguments. If you click that, that'll take you to a video. Okay, so depending on what it is, it could take you to an original file straight from the website, could take you to an article, could take you to our YouTube channel as well. So right off the bat, tons of great questions there answered. Okay, you can check out our books as well. That'll take you right to the Creationist Clothing website, as well as to the Amazon web pages where you can get the books directly. Hopefully one day, when we make it big enough, okay, and it's one step at a time, but hopefully we can sell books directly from our website. That's definitely something to hopefully look forward to in the future. So right here we have a kind of a gap separating answers to questions and challenges, and then we got some of our more popular debates that we've had, and a lot of classics too. Right off the bat, myself versus Dr. Ron Garrett, is there evidence for biblical creation? That was, I think over a year ago, well over a year ago. A lot of these debates people may not have seen. A lot of these debates people may have forgotten about. So definitely checking out the website, looking through the website is going to bring you across many videos that you may have either forgotten that we had or have not seen. Because on the YouTube channel, we have over 1,200 videos. So they kind of get diluted down. It becomes difficult oftentimes to find answers to specific questions. So let's see here. Okay. Good chat so far. I appreciate that. So right here, panel of PhD scientists. This was epic. We had the pre-show and the after show. We had a panel of 6 PhDs, and we addressed exactly why abiogenesis is failing. PhD astrophysicist gives amazing evidence for young Earth creation. We still have not received any real rebuttal or response to the epic data and information and evidence presented in this broadcast, in this interview. We brought forth the so-called best objections to Dr. Lyle when it comes to his distant starlight model, and he demolished them all. So that is definitely a must watch. This was an epic debate, Mark Reed versus Kent Hovind. And of course, you can get into some of our top videos. Couple more debates here for people, especially for people who haven't seen the ministry. They don't really know about us, and they find us through the website. Okay, so they're going to be able to see a lot of these really cool debates, a lot of these bigger debates that we've hosted over the last few years, the great Age of the Earth debate, young or old. So anyways, here's the Meet the Team section. Okay, so we've got myself. We've got, and like I said, I'll periodically check the live chat in case people have questions. Guys, let me know how the audio, the video, and the screen share is going. So here's myself. If you click, if you click it, you get full biography of each member of Team SFT. And let's go back down here. George Bond, Professor David McQueen, Matt, you may know him as Raw Matt, Matt Man, many different names. He's a legend. Right here, you can even just right off the bat click here for some more answers. This will take you to the resources section. Okay, Saved by Grace says audio is great. I appreciate that. Also, let me see. Caleb, I appreciate that, brother. Crazy Eyed Me says, dude, I got to check out Caroline's Dr. Lyle. Okay, I see that. Just in Starlight model. That stuff's been on my mind. I highly recommend. So the other night, I was busy all week, last week, trying to finalize the last details of this website with the web designers. And just after a week of pretty much spending every night behind the computer, dealing with technology, I decided to just kind of shut all that down. And I must have spent just 3 hours going through Dr. Lyle's book, The Physics of Einstein. It's a must read, and it is it's a fascinating book. His final chapter, one of his final chapters, I should say, he refutes the objections coming from mostly bloggers. He points out there haven't been any peer-reviewed responses. Landon says, who do you want to debate in the future? That's a good question, brother. That's a good question. I mean, after doing 80 to 100 debates, the question is, who haven't I debated? And, we sent out an email a couple weeks back to Aaron Ra to debate the topic of separate ancestry. And he denied the opportunity. He knows he's not quite up to date with the data. We reached out to him, must have been a day or two after his debate with Dr. Jackson, and I presented a couple questions pertaining to linkage blocks, which he had no idea what I was talking about, as well as human phylogeny related data like the mitochondrial DNA and the Y chromosome, which again, he said he doesn't know. And then he went on a rant as to how young Earth creationists are always liars and therefore always wrong. And long story short, he didn't have an answer, right? So we reached out to him to set up a formal debate, and he refused. So, I mean, he'd be an interesting one to debate. He's popular. I think he would be a lot easier, to be honest with you, a lot easier to beat, I guess you could say, in a debate than even a lot of the interlocutors I've faced off with. Even, a couple gentlemen in the chat, our atheist friends like Emo, Luca, even some of the debates I've had recently with like Jackson Rowe and Marshall, my couple debates with Conspiracy Cats comes to mind. I find these critics, I guess you could say, or skeptics, or even more up to date at this point than Aaron Ross. So Landon says, I think he makes himself out to be smarter and tougher than he really is. I agree. You can kind of see the look on his face a lot of the times. Like he had Dr. Dan Stern Cardinal on for damage control, essentially, to help address the arguments pertaining to mitochondrial DNA and Y chromosome and linkage blocks, the arguments that I put forth as a question during his debate with Dr. Jackson. And you can kind of see as Dr. Dan was explaining it, a lot of it was definitely going over Aaron Ra's head, which is funny because if he wants to present this phylogeny challenge as being something irrefutable in the sense that, all evidence points to universal common ancestry being true, but then he's not aware or up to date of the best evidence for separate ancestry, then I think that's kind of telling. So crazy-eyed me says he's hiding his fears. I think so. So anyways, this will take you to the resources section. We've got a lot of other YouTube channels for people to check out. Logical, Plausible, Probable, The Man with the Plan. So definitely check that channel out. Redefine Living. Mama's YouTube channel, where we've got, especially for kids, perfect for kids, reading through a lot of books. Our Goodreads page, Patreon page, our Creationist Clothing page, as well as our main channels, and then our secondary channels. So a lot of people are not aware of our secondary channels where I want to spend some more time. There's just not enough time in the day. So to do everything I want to do. But eventually I want to start re-uploading all our videos to these backup channels. So definitely subscribe to them. Abraham, thanks for being here, says, I know you have had Ken Hovind on your channel, but have you ever tried reaching out to Ken Ham? He's a YEC, right? Yes, Ken Ham. I love Answers in Genesis. No, I've never tried to have Ken Ham on. But definitely check out the interviews playlist. I think there's over, I'm not sure, maybe 70 interviews now. We've had people from CMI, people from ICR. We have had people from AIG on. I've never had Ken Ham on, though. That would certainly be awesome. So these answering more challenges and refuting more arguments. So every single week, I'm hoping to add more videos to this section. Okay, this section, if you click the video, it doesn't take you to YouTube or anything. It's just built in right to the website. So more answers to common questions, dinosaurs in the Bible, is there evidence for Christianity, defending the Genesis flood, a debate between me and Marshall on universal or separate ancestry, which I really... Oh, yeah, there we go. Saved by Grace says, will you debate Simon Dan in the future if possible? Strawman Dan, because all his arguments are based on misrepresentations and strawman arguments. Yeah, he would be the one. He would be the one I'd want to debate, is Simon Dan. Now, here's the thing. You've got Conspiracy Cats, him and Conspiracy Cats. I like Conspiracy Cats. I respect him. He's a good guy. We disagree, but we disagree respectfully. And I think Conspiracy Cats is one of the better debaters. And the two debates I had with him were a lot of fun, especially because he brought forth some good arguments, and therefore there was some interesting dialogue and discussion to be had. The problem is Simon Dan, I suspect, knows that Conspiracy Cats is the kind of guy that Simon Dan would look to. Right? Simon Dan would look up to Conspiracy Cats for arguments, for data points. So considering I've debated Conspiracy Cats twice, and I think I feel like I did well in those debates. Okay. I don't think Simon would then want to do the debate because he's not even as up to date as Conspiracy Cats. But yeah, he'd be the guy. I definitely like to debate him. I think that'd be fun. So, question like, did man live to 900? These are all the questions, especially the questions that I had on my mind coming into Christianity and young earth creation, of course. So, yeah, great chat right now. So any other questions, let me know. Young earth creation in the house. Good to see you, Matt. Speaking of Matt right here, technical presentation on biblical longevity. If you have not yet seen that, check that out. So we are going to add more and more to the technical presentation section. Okay. I'm working on a couple presentations. We're going to have Matt back on, people from the team. We want to put forth presentations. So when we get requested for maybe a speaking engagement or something like that, people will have an idea just browsing the website as to what they may want to interview us on or present on. So although the website's live, I am going to be adding to it weekly because, as I pointed out, we have over 1,200 videos, lots of content. So anyways, let's go to the video section here. And as it's loading, let's check the chat from our awesome subscribers and supporters. All right. Anybody new here that wasn't here for the intro? Make sure you're here tomorrow because we've got Dr. Grady McMurtry back here, 2+ hours worth of audience Q&A. So any question that you guys have pertaining to creation, evolution, and related topics, be here, tag me. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Where I live, I get to listen to Bob Duco. If anyone's familiar with Bob Duco, he's awesome. I've actually got a debate uploaded between Bob Duco and Aaron Ra. And Bob Duco absolutely decimated Aaron Ra. Poor guy didn't stand a chance. And Bob Duco frequently has Dr. McMurtry on. So I am blessed to listen to Grady. And he's always got great answers to pretty well any question. So I'm excited for that. Alrighty, so check the videos. The main videos page, you've got, I think, what are some pretty edifying streams to just kind of click and watch right off the bat. Amazing Evidence for Christianity with Dr. Frank Turek. What must we do to be saved? Very important, of course. We can win arguments all day, but it's also about winning souls. The most important thing is about winning souls, because winning arguments doesn't necessarily win a soul. So that's important in terms of salvation and soteriology. Couple interviews I really enjoyed with couple sisters here, Sisters in Christ, S.J. Thomason and Bread of Life. Both got great channels. Why Are People Atheists with Bill Morgan. That was an epic stream. And Creation Science for Children with Mr. and Mrs. McQueen. So definitely a page of videos that I think will draw people in, especially people who are new to this topic. So you can click the categories, ancestry. So each category is going to be broken down with a ton of videos. And take a look at the live chat here. Okay, awesome. Moriel Rorschach says humans stay up this late. Yes. Luca says it's 8 a.m. where he is, so that would be early. That's good, Luca. You're an early bird, my good man. That is the way to go. Start the day off nice and early, get a lot done. So ancestry, of course, you're going to get all your answers to human evolution related topics. What is the real racial history of man? Neanderthals, are Neanderthals evidence for creation or evolution? Discovering Adam and Eve. Even your best so-called objections, okay, when it comes to ancestry, universal or separate, we've got answers for you. Is African genetic diversity evidence for evolution? The out of Africa theory, question mark. Are recombination rates a problem for biblical creation? The answer is no. Definitely check that out. Refuting the phylogeny challenge is in showing why the evidence best supports separate ancestry. Separating man and apes. What are the differences between humans and apes? Or as the evolutionists would say, non-human apes versus human apes, if you want to go taxonomically speaking. Neanderthals highly inbred and hypermutating. There's a common argument put forth by the critics. How can that be possible? Is there evidence for a literal Adam and Eve? So questions to answers, I should say, to pretty well everything. Refuting arguments for evolution and an old earth. Tons of great videos, classic videos like this must be over a year ago as well now. I mean, time just flies by, as I'm sure everybody agrees. But me, Matt, and Dr. Dino himself, Matt and I went on Kent's channel and refuted endogenous retroviruses. So this was our video debunking Stated Clearly. And it's so funny because Stated Clearly put out a couple video response. I think they were just maybe 10 minutes or less responses. And our video was between 2 and 3 hours. And we touched on predictions. We touched on so much data, okay, when it comes to these retroviral-like elements, and even posed some real difficult challenges to Stated Clearly and really any critic that wants to hold up endogenous retroviruses as a line of evidence for human evolution. And he didn't answer any of that. So very disappointed in that. Is limestone a problem for young earth creation? Did birds evolve from dinosaurs? This is a must watch. Is carbon dating a problem for young earth creation? The answer is no. Carbon dating's the young earth creationist's best friend. So check that out. That's a great video. Christopher Sylvia says, congrats on the website, brother. Thank you, Chris. Can't wait to buy some clothes and swivel from atheist heads when I'm strolling through the park. Epic. I appreciate that. So good to see everybody. Graham, good to see you as well, brother. Creationist. Okay, so we'll keep going. Debunking William Lane Craig, more specifically pseudogenes, mammal-like reptiles. I mean, we want to leave no stone unturned. If there's an argument out there by the critics, we want a video or an article or something addressing it. Okay, so those keep going and going. And like I said, you've got all your categories. You want something pertaining to origin of life. Boom, we got it for you. You click it, and we've had a number of PhD scientists on, all great brothers in Christ, geniuses, really. Dr. Gordon Wilson, Dr. James Carter, Dr. Ryan Hayes, Dr. Rob Stadler. These are all epic videos. Dr. Jonathan Sarfati, of course. And Dr. Rob Stadler, his presentation on the Stairway to Life, fantastic. If you have not yet seen it, you have to right away watch that presentation. I've watched it a dozen times because there's just so much good information in that presentation. And his book, which I have behind me, The Stairway to Life, that's also a must read as well. So design, geology. So click the geology section. That's very important. We are blessed to have Professor David McQueen as a member of the team. We've even got him in the Meet the Team section. And with Professor David McQueen, who is a professional geologist, he's taught university level geology. He really knows his stuff. So we are blessed to have so many great videos in the geology section. The basics of geology. Once you graduate from the basics of geology, you got advanced geology. We've also got Joseph Hubbard, John Mackay. We had Steph Harima addressing the Cassiol Formation. Lots of videos on common objections pertaining to limestone, Chicxulub Crater, the Grand Canyon, dating methods. I mean, you name it. You go through this. We've had Mike Ord on a ton of times. What I love about the appearances that we've had with Mike Ord is we have given some really thorough and what I believe to be some irrefutable presentations. Okay, because what you'll notice with these presentations in this section is you won't find any rebuttals to the overwhelming data that suggests a worldwide flood. But what the critics will do is they'll ignore all that. They'll ignore all that, but then they'll say, well, what about X, Y, Z? What about this? Well, what about this, right? And then we'll answer those challenges or questions. A lot of the times they don't like the answers. But the point is they will consistently ignore the evidence that we're putting forth to support the worldwide flood. Okay, because a lot of critics just don't really want to actually believe. But we've had them on several times, and 2 times specifically just to refute the objections put forth by critics of a worldwide flood. And of course, debate section. Like I said, we've hosted over 100 debates. And so, yeah, Graham Gold, he's got Joel Tay from CMI coming on his channel soon. So please subscribe to Brother Graham's channel. He's putting out great content, puts out some great streams, and he's going to start doing interviews and discussions too. So go subscribe to him. Graham asks, why do they ignore the evidence, Danny? Well, I think a lot of them, as 2 Peter 3 says, they're willingly ignorant, right? In the last days, there's going to be scoffers willingly denying the creation, the flood, the coming judgment. You see that today when it comes to the coming judgment. Like, oh, you've been saying, Christ is going to return for 1,000 years or so, scoffing at it, right? Implying that he's never going to return. And then, of course, they reject the world that then was being overflowed with water perish. So think about it. If these critics are rejecting the creation event and the global flood, which would be the two events in the history of the universe that would be unrepeatable, essentially unobservable, okay, and would explain most of the data that we actually see. So if you refute those, or if you reject those, and you are willingly ignorant of those events, then you will then be forced to interpret all the data that points us back to the special creation event and the global flood. You will have to interpret that data differently. You would have to interpret that data in light of secularist ideas, in light of naturalism, which is going to lead to false conclusions. So, as you know, we've hosted well over 100 debates, 100 must-watch debates, I would say. So there's a ton of debates in this section. Tons of classics. Ken Hovind versus Atheist Jr. Should evolution be taught in public schools? This was an epic debate. Paul Price versus Dr. Ron Garrett on genetic entropy. An epic 2-versus-2 debate. Me and John Maddox took on Team Skeptic and JL Warren. Dr. Kevin Anderson versus Jackson Wheat. I mean, you can scroll through here. We've had a ton of classic debates. This was an epic end times theology debate. Stacy Turbeville versus Ken Hovind. That still holds the record for most people live with us. I think we had about 370 live for that debate. Here's my debate with Conspiracy Cats. One of my 2 debates with Conspiracy Cats. Debate on human chromosome 2, the human chromosome 2 fusion. So, guys, not every single debate is there, of course. So we're just slowly going to add to these categories and sections. Then we've got the article section as well that we are going to be adding to more and more and more. So we've just got a few here for now, but we're hoping to get articles. I mean, we've got Professor McQueen with us as part of the team. We've got, George Bond, Matt. So we want to get articles on all sorts of topics. So definitely check that out. So let's see here. Landon Freeman says, who was the first person you debated? Good question, brother. I had a lot of, I guess you could say, informal debates just through open mics with atheists. But my first formal debate on Modern Day Debate was with James Downard. And that was on creation or evolution, if I'm not mistaken. So that was my first formal debate. But before that, I had a ton of debates on just in open mics or, a lot of atheists. I had probably about 4 informal debates or discussions with CRISPR. Would have been my first several. Skylar Fiction, jumped on his channel a couple times. So yeah, check the debate playlist to find, because sometimes I'll look through those and I'll be like, these are some debates that I forgot even existed. So anyways, guys, give me one second. We're going to kind of transition in just a minute to some of these arguments that I've heard. And we're just going to go kind of on a brief 35 people, even at this time. This is epic, guys. So you'll definitely want to stay here for these arguments that I've heard recently. We're going to demolish them. So SFT will be right back. All right, commercial break is over. So SFT is back. Yes, tomorrow Dr. Grady McMurtry is going to be here for an epic Q&A. We're going to be going for at least 2 hours. So that'll be your chance, your opportunity. Bring your questions. If you're an atheist or an evolutionist, bring your objections. We'll be happy to address them the best way possible, the best way we can. So we've also got the very next day, we've got Professor David McQueen back here with us too for a presentation on why evolution is useless. And then on Thursday, we've got the much anticipated debate between Skyout, who takes the old earth position from the Bible, and CJ Cox, who takes the young earth creation position from the Bible. What I want to do actually before we get into this carbon-14 argument is I want to let people know too that they can check the contact section, okay? And if there are people who are interested in interviews, debates, discussions, they want to get involved in this debate community that we have here, we're always looking for new debaters, always looking for new ideas in terms of debates. We like to host debates pertaining to philosophy, age of the earth, all types of science related topics, doctrine, theology. So yeah, if you want to contact us, you want to talk to me or somebody else from the team, definitely utilize this. You can also go to the shop section, which will take you right to our creationist clothing page. And we're currently working on a couple more shirts with our new logos. So those should be ready maybe in the next week or so. We got a new section here, Team SFT channels. So it's kind of like a 2 website in one kind of thing. So anybody new here to the show, that is, our new official website is good to go. It's live and tons of content for you. So you got a question on your mind, or you heard an argument from an evolutionist, go to the website, hit the search bar. Somebody threw out limestone at you. Limestone refutes the global flood, they say. Well, click limestone and you'll have a guaranteed answer to that. Endogenous retroviruses. And those will pop up for you too. Go into the article section. You'll have a couple articles to choose from when it comes to ERVs. So answers to all your questions. Okay, so let's check the chat before we get into carbon dating. And let's see here. Luca, when is the next open mic? So that's actually a good question, because what I want to start doing probably in the next couple weeks, especially now that summer is over, is I want to have even a weekly open mic night where I would start us off. I would go live for 45 minutes on a topic. Okay, maybe it's an age of the earth topic, maybe it's an evolution related topic, and then I will kind of give my talk on it, my perspective, and then what I'll do is open up the chat. So people, atheists, theists, creationists, evolutionists, whoever wants to join can certainly join. So that is the goal. And we should be starting that in the next couple of weeks. And therefore, Luca, you'd be free to join. Anybody would be free to join. And of course, we would keep the open mics professional, cordial, just like the debates we have. So Landon says, I'm looking forward to an open mic video. Yes. If it wasn't so late, I'd probably open it up tonight, but tomorrow we've got a big show. Then Wednesday we've got a show. Then Thursday we've got a show. Plus I'm still going to be doing some stuff behind the scenes on the website. So this is really just a walkthrough, and then I'm going to address a couple arguments I've heard, but certainly stay tuned. We will be having some open mics, even on some theology related topics, because I think it's important to get some of your perspectives in here as well. And it's best to kind of open the mic to get you guys in here to give us your thoughts, maybe some questions you had. Okay, so that being said, we put out a video a couple of weeks ago with Dr. Charles Jackson, okay, where we addressed the carbon-14 argument. And what's funny is I think some critics, and not even necessarily atheistic evolutionists or anything like that. I've actually heard these being put forth now by old earth creationists, theistic evolutionists, who I find are really not up to date on this topic. And they brought forth arguments that we literally addressed in the video. So it makes me wonder if these specific critics are watching the videos. And if they are they watching them with an open mind? Because to just repeat the same argument as more of an assertion, not actually deal with our response to that argument, is just not a very sophisticated approach to debate. Okay. So I want to address those arguments, but even for anybody who's new here and you're wondering, you know, what is this whole deal with radiocarbon? What's this deal with carbon dating? Why is it even an issue? Well, let me kind of break down just a couple of the basics first. Okay. Radiocarbon, it's produced in the atmosphere. Okay. And it's produced in the atmosphere through cosmic ray bombardment. And what happens is nitrogen atoms are then turned into carbon-14 atoms. And this then circulates. Okay. This circulates into the carbon dioxide that we actually breathe. So when we're alive, when we're living, we're constantly bringing in more carbon-14. And it's also taken in by plants. Okay, it's taken in by plants during photosynthesis. So we're eating the plants, of course. We're oftentimes surrounded by plants that are all rich in carbon-14. It's everywhere, essentially. This is actually why we can test samples such as wood. Because samples such as wood, if the evolutionists say are millions of years old, then, well, we'll get into that a little bit later as to why there shouldn't be any carbon-14, okay? So carbon-14 can get into our bodies a number of ways, okay? It gets into animals, as we pointed out, it gets into plants, vegetables. We eat these things, we consume these things, we breathe the air, we're alive, we're constantly replenishing carbon-14 even as it decays. So as long as we're living, as long as we are alive, we're taking in more and more radiocarbon. But what happens when we die? Are we taking in any more radiocarbon? Well, if we're dead, then we're obviously not taking in any more radiocarbon. And so the radiocarbon gets less and less and less to the point where, of course, there wouldn't be any left. Okay. And typically, if you went back 90 to, let's say, 100,000 years, okay, then there should be absolutely no carbon left. If every single atom in the universe was made of radiocarbon, you go back 100,000 years, probably less, but let's just say 100,000 years for sake of argument, then there should be no radiocarbon left. Okay, so logically then, when it comes to the age of the Earth debate, young or old, then the deep time proponent would say that samples such as dinosaur bones, okay, or certain samples of fossilized wood or coal, you name it, okay, they would say these are millions of years old, or in the case of diamonds, billions of years old. And therefore, logically, if there should be no more radiocarbon, then there shouldn't be radiocarbon detected in these samples. But the creationists would say, well, if everything goes back just 6,000 years, 6,000 to 7,000 years, and these samples really aren't millions to billions of years old, then theoretically we should be able to find not just trace amounts of radiocarbon, but detectable levels of radiocarbon that are oftentimes significant, more than just trace amounts. Okay. So if you assume that the Earth is billions of years old, then you're obviously going to then assume that these samples have no radiocarbon. And that's why they use other dating methods, because why would you carbon date a sample that you know has no radiocarbon present? Okay. And of course, if you're dating a rock, you're going to have to use some of these radioisotope dating methods like potassium to argon, uranium to lead. Okay. So if you're following here, you should be able to tell then why this is important to the age of the Earth debate. Well, we actually have had many PhDs, one PhD named Dr. Andrew Snelling. He collected samples, many different samples, specifically collected samples of fossilized wood, and he collected samples that are found in different layers, okay, many different layers of the geological record, the geological column. And every single time he found detectable levels of radiocarbon in every single sample. The secularists will say, or the evolutionist who's not up to date on the material, they'll say, well, that's a creationist, and these creationists are going into doing the research in a biased way. That doesn't work, because we can find many examples of this in the secular literature. They just don't talk about it. You actually got to go into the literature, and you can find it. Dr. Snelling has compiled piles of data pointing this out, okay? So it's detected by the secularists themselves. They just don't really talk about it. The rate team, they collected, as I pointed out, numerous samples, assuming these samples to be millions of years old. In the case of diamonds, billions of years old. And they found detectable levels of radiocarbon. They also tested these diamonds, okay? Because, as most people probably know in the chat, diamonds are formed. They come deep within the earth, okay? And because these diamonds are made deep down inside the earth, that means these diamonds did not have any contact with the atmosphere. So that means they should not have any radiocarbon present in them. Okay, whatever radiocarbon is found has to be intrinsic to the diamonds. And these diamonds were tested. And every single one of these diamonds yielded radiocarbon. And much of the radiocarbon yielding altogether the same age, which is interesting. Okay, and now this data, Dr. Andrew Snelling, in a lecture that I recommended people watch, and I think it should be in the description box when we had Dr. Jackson on, he pointed out that when they got this data, this fascinating data that's inconsistent with deep time evolution and uniformitarianism, they presented this at a conference, and I believe it was called the American Geophysical Union. Okay. And according to Dr. Snelling, this is one of the largest bodies in terms of gathering together geologists from around the world. And there was a secularist there, and he got his own diamonds. Okay, he was fascinated by this, so he got his own diamonds, and he tested them for himself to see if there's detectable levels of radiocarbon. And guess what? He ended up getting the same results as the rate team. This is repeatable data. Repeatable. This is how science works. And because this data flies in the face of the secular based assumptions of deep time evolution, deep time history, they obviously can't just tap out and say, okay, you know, we got to kind of rethink our paradigm here. No, they have to look to rescue devices. And a few of the rescue devices that we dealt with in the last stream, and I want to make sure I hit them all here. So let me see some questions here. And because diamonds are the hardest substance on Earth, they should be pretty well immune to contamination for the most part. Okay. Let me see here. Dan's man. He says they think the C14 in the bone/diamonds are new C14 made from nitrogen in the And that was one of the arguments that we dealt with in the Dr. Charles Jackson interview. And I'll deal with that here. Ultimately, there's just not enough material in the surrounding rocks. You would need like thousands and thousands times more material to recharge the C14. But we'll get into that in a little more detail a little bit lately. So let's see. Graham says diamonds are a YEC's best friend. Exactly. Okay, so they think it's fresh. All right, so let's deal with that. I think I got all the questions here. All right, so some of the arguments that have been put forth are contamination. What Dan's man here said, that the nearby rocks, nearby material can kind of recharge, in a sense, the C14. But also this idea that there was a machine error. Okay, so that's the new one. Not a new one. This is what I believe this is what the secularist who tested his own diamonds, I believe this is what he says. He said, but clearly and logically, and as Dr. Andrew Snelling pointed out himself, machine error, looking to a machine error to explain this data doesn't work. Because even if you have no sample in the machine, let's say you have no diamonds in the machine, nothing that you're testing, then what you're going to get is no radiocarbon. So when you put the diamond in, we get detectable levels of radiocarbon. It can't be a machine error, it can't be contamination. And this argument pertaining to machine error is really just the secularists waving the data away. Contamination, that's the one that I've heard being repeated, even though we dealt with that significantly in the last stream. Okay, the laboratory, they have very strict, and we pointed this out in the last stream, but they have these really, really strict pre-treatment protocols, okay? And these pre-treatment protocols involve really, really harsh washings. It's just not just one wash. I mean, these are repeated washings in strong acids that will literally dissolve anything. And then these samples are hit with multiple treatments, ensuring that only carbon that's actually intrinsic to the sample ends up in the instrument to be measured. Okay? These samples cannot be contaminated. Contamination has been ruled out. These results have been repeated. As I pointed out, they've been even repeated by secularists, been repeated by people who necessarily are anti-YEC. This is all throughout the secular literature. Contamination doesn't work. It's a weak rescue device. That's why, as Dr. Snelling points out, you won't find any of these rebuttals or refutations in peer-reviewed journals. Okay, remember, this data and research, they presented this at the American Geophysical Union. This is peer-reviewed data, okay? This data is legit. So just yelling machine error, contamination doesn't work. It's weak. And the fact that we find radiocarbon in samples of coal, fossils, dinosaur fossils, fossilized wood, diamonds, they've all got detectable levels of radiocarbon, not just trace amounts, oftentimes significant amounts of radiocarbon that are being detected. So that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Now, this other argument, and I want to screen share here at an article that it's a lay article for people, and let's see. Young Earth creation. Critics also think because carbon can go back 50,000 years because of half-lives, that this proves Earth is older than just a few thousand years. Right. Great point. Great point. So you know what? We'll deal with that one too. I want to screen share here first and show you guys. This is a good lay article to check out. Okay. And it's titled Carbon-14 in Fossils, Coal, and Diamonds. Okay. So check it out. These arguments have been dealt with. Very important question. If radiocarbon lasts only a few 100,000 years, why is it found in all the Earth's diamonds dated at billions of years old? Okay. So here we go. This is what Dan's man was saying. The second cry is new radiocarbon was formed directly in the fossils when nearby decaying uranium bombarded traces of nitrogen in the buried fossils. This is actually an argument that Dr. Hugh Ross brought forth to Dr. Jason Lyle, which he demolished and pointed out that you would need thousands and thousands and thousands of times more material to recharge, which just isn't found. There's just not enough. It doesn't work. Okay. So Dr. Snelling points out carbon-14 does form from such transformation of nitrogen, but actual calculations demonstrate conclusively this process does not produce the levels of radiocarbon that world-class laboratories, which, by the way, as we pointed out earlier, subject these samples to harsh treatments with very strong acids, to the point where we know that whatever radiocarbon is detected, it has to be intrinsic to the sample, intrinsic to the diamond. So radiocarbon that world-class laboratories have found in fossils, coal, and diamonds, there hasn't been a good response. This argument when it comes to contamination has been overturned. No, it's not machine error. Okay. Here's a few points from Dr. Snelling, kind of reiterating a little bit about what I was said. Even if every atom in the whole earth were carbon-14, they would decay so quickly that no carbon-14 would be left on earth after only 1 million years. Contrary to expectations, between 1984 and 1998 alone, notice this, the scientific literature reported carbon-14 in 70 samples that came from fossils, coal, oil, natural gas, and marble, representing the fossil-bearing portion of the geologic record, supposedly spanning more than 500 years. All contained radiocarbon. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? From the young Earth perspective, the data that we're getting, the evidence that we're getting is exactly what we would expect. And yet you've got the old earthers, the theistic evolutionists, the naturalistic evolutionists. They're cornered. They're on the defense. We're on the offense. They're on the defense. We're saying, how can this be the case? And they're saying, well, you know, maybe contamination, maybe it was machine error, maybe this, maybe that's all been looked at. It's all been dealt with. The RATE team specifically has looked at all these. Okay. The critics are just not up to date on the data. They have no real response to this. Further analyses of fossilized wood and coal samples. I believe it was Gutsy Gibbon in her video that was trying to say this was contamination as well. It doesn't work. Doesn't work. And what's funny is, even for sake of argument, you said one or two of these samples that were tested. Let's say the fossilized wood. Let's just say they were contaminated. We have numerous examples in the scientific literature of this. It's not just one or two where you can say, contaminated. No, there's multiple examples, and these have been repeated too. I mean, how do they explain the fact that at this conference, there was a gentleman at the conference who was so amazed by this that he said, I'm going to go do this myself. And he got the same results. That's not contamination right there. How do you explain that one, Gutsy Gibbon? How do you explain that, critics? They won't address these, though. They're just hoping that their audience, I guess, is ignorant enough to believe that the problem is actually being addressed. Show me a peer-reviewed paper that actually refutes the data derived, the research of the RATE team. You're not going to find it. That's why Dr. Andrew Snelling often points out that these blogs, they don't take them seriously. These angry internet bloggers. Okay. So with what Raw Matt was pointing out too, when it comes to carbon dating. Okay, the closer you get back to the flood, the more unreliable the dates are going to be, of course, especially with the fact that the magnetic field is decaying, the fact that the pre-flood world would have been a lot more green, 90% green. What does that mean? Obviously, if you're a uniformitarian, you can't make assumptions about carbon-14 and the amount of carbon-14 produced in the atmosphere, the amount of carbon-14 circulating on the planet, okay? Because if you make the wrong assumption, then obviously you're going to get inflated dates. And I think he points that out here. He says, even that is too old when you realize that these ages assume, right? These ages assume that the Earth's magnetic field has always been constant, but it was stronger in the past, protecting the atmosphere from solar radiation and reducing the radiocarbon production. As a result, past creatures had much less radiocarbon in their bodies, and their deaths occurred much more recently than reported. So the radiocarbon ages of all fossils and coal should be reduced to less than 5,000 years. See, they still don't get it right off the bat. I heard a specific old Earth creationist say, oh, why are young Earth creationists jumping all over this data? You know, they're still getting dates from these diamonds at 50,000 years. It's like they don't understand the arguments enough to even put forth a coherent, logical, sophisticated, intelligent rebuttal. Just like the rebuttals I've seen to the speciation videos we did, like, oh, you know, standing for truth and raw math, they're straw manning my position, you know, this and that. No, there's no straw manning going on. It's just a lot of these critics, they don't have, unfortunately, the, I don't want to say the smarts, just the, education on some of these topics to even begin arguing the data, arguing with us, okay? And this is the same thing that goes with the radiocarbon data. The fact is, we find detectable levels of radiocarbon in samples that are supposed to be millions to billions of years old, which means the Earth cannot be millions to billions of years old. You see how simple it is? It's a really simple argument, okay? So how old really is the Earth? Well, there's many assumptions going into these dating methods, including carbon dating, but we can get into things that typically we do get into, like molecular clocks, so on and so forth. But what's funny is Dr. Andrew Snelling pointed out that the trees that were tested in all these different layers or forms of coal They all came back, even though they're all different ages, according to the secularists. They all came back at the same age, which is exactly what was predicted, because guess what? All these trees were buried during the global flood. So of course they would be coming back at the same age, but the ages are just relative. They're not absolute. Okay. So you can't say, well, this is, coming back at 50,000 years. So that refutes a young earth. No, as you can see here, there's many assumptions at play. Okay, so the radiocarbon ages of all fossils and coal should be reduced to less than 5,000 years, matching the timing of their burial during the flood. The age of diamonds should be reduced to the approximate time of biblical creation, about 6,000 years ago. And what's amazing is the molecular clock data confirms that humans also go back roughly 6,000 years. So isn't that amazing that a lot of these old earthers, they can say, well, the genetic related data is just so strong that, okay, man is young, but the earth is old. Isn't that so funny? Then we can look to this data, which destroys these old earth assumptions, these old earth arguments, and we can bring the earth right to where the Bible says humans were. At the beginning of creation, he made them male and female. Creation of what? Well, we're obviously going back to the creation week. And on day 6, God created man. Okay. And the scientific data corroborates this. So let me just have a look at the chat real quick. We've got, Doki Doki SFT fan club says carbon dating is cheap, like $200 at university lab. Isn't it funny? Whenever they check this, whenever they go into it, they actually test these samples. What do they get? Levels of radiocarbon. Brother Graham, post your channel and your stream to Joel Tay. So people go subscribe to Graham so people can see or set a reminder for that stream, because that stream is definitely going to be awesome. So as you can see here, then the rescue devices. Here's Dr. Snelling going over the contamination rescue device, which we demolished. Just to really drill it into these critics' heads, let's go over it a little bit more. So old earth advocates repeat the same two hack-and-eye defenses, right? It's the same talking points over and over again. And it's just really, really laughable when you see an old earth creationist or a critic, okay, repeating or just making the assertion just real quick to his audience, contamination. It's like, you realize that's been dealt with, which shows me that they don't actually have an intelligent, sophisticated response to this data. And that's why I always say it's 2021. It's a great time to be a young earth creationist, okay? So, even though they were resoundingly demolished years ago, the first cry is, it's all contamination. Yet for 30 years, AMS radiocarbon laboratories have subjected all samples before they carbon-14 date them to repeated brutal treatments with strong acids and bleaches, just as I pointed out earlier, and bleaches, to rid them all of contamination. And when the instruments are tested with blank samples, this is important, they yield 0 radiocarbon. So there can't be any contamination or instrument problems. Okay, let's take a pause there. Even though we've demolished all these rescue devices, we spent a few minutes going over the science of C14 production, okay? We've gone over why this is important when it comes to the old earth versus young earth debate. We've gone over expectations specific to the old earther, expectations specific to the young earther. Okay. So going over all that, showing the data, showing the evidence, and then showing how the rescue devices don't work. Let's see if the critics, whether it's a theistic evolutionist, an old earth creationist, a naturalistic evolutionist, we will see if they use the same argument. Oh, we're doing one more commercial break, guys. Just 1 second. Commercial break is over, guys. I appreciate the patience, the joy of kids. So when it's late at night and, you know, our sons or daughters wake up with whether it's a nightmare or something, we got to jump to their help. So I appreciate the patience and the support. Awesome. Okay. Well, we still got 40 people in the chat. So, Lucas said, why SFT is not on screen. So right when I was concluding the carbon 14 issue, my daughter ended up coming downstairs and wanted me to tuck her back into bed. So family comes first, right? So Doki Doki says, Donnie Jr., Graham says, loving dad. Yes. Yes. I love my children. They come first. So kids are tucked back into bed and everything is good. So that being said, let's see if there's any. Where's your coffee? Yeah. Just water tonight because even for me, it's too late for coffee. All coffeeed out. So that being said, we dealt with contamination. We dealt with the recharging of C14 from nearby materials. We dealt with the argument pertaining to machine error. Okay. We've demolished them all. Okay. Let's see here. Christopher Sylvia says, why C14 testing has never even been addressed in the secular conventional scientific literature. What if a UFC fighter was so good that nobody would risk their record by fighting them? Amen. Amen. So, Graham, if you want to stream, we've been going for about an hour and a half. So we're probably going to start winding it down here. I wanted to, there's one other argument pertaining to homo naledi I wanted to deal with, but what I think I'm going to do is save that for another stream because I do have a ton of slides and information specifically on that I don't want to rush through it. And as you can see here, we kind of spent a considerable amount of time on the dating method argument. And I just find it funny because I'm going to screen share real quick. Even when it comes to your radioisotope dating methods, okay? As you can see here, in the conventional literature, okay, you've got young rocks from recent eruptions, okay, yielding greatly exaggerated apparent ages. This data in this table was retrieved from mainstream scientific journals. This isn't young earth creationists making this up. This isn't all just from Mount St. Helens. And this is not addressed. Okay. I mean, you've got lava. When lava extruded? 1800 to 1801 AD. 1792. I mean, you go through these dates. And what are the ages that we're getting? I mean, 1.6 million years. Over here, we're getting 50 million years, roughly 40 million years. So it really is the important question. Why should we trust these dates as absolute ages when we can't even derive correct dates for rocks of known age? Okay. So you don't see the critics addressing the data. They just want to criticize young earth creationists, but you don't see them addressing the data from conventional literature. It's there. Okay. Here's another. I'm going to screen share again, actually. Really leave no stone unturned on this one. Right here. Geophysicist Dr. John Baumgartner, part of the rate research, investigated C14 in number of diamonds. There should be no C14 at all if they were really over 1 billion years old. Yet the radiocarbon lab reported that there was over, look at this, over 10 times the detection limit. So then you get these critics. There was specifically an old earth creationist I heard who said, just trace amounts, all contamination. Let's see if we ever get now a sophisticated response, an informed response that isn't again, the repeated and already demolished talking point of, it's just scant amounts, just kind of background detection, or all the result of contamination. No, over 10 times the detection limit. Okay. So I want to see an actual response that isn't just the typical repeated talking point. Thus, they had a radiocarbon age far less than 1 million years. Dr. Baumgartner repeated this with six more diamonds, and these had even more radiocarbon. Repeated data. Okay, this is all repeatable. The presence of radiocarbon in these diamonds where there should be none is thus sparkling evidence for a young world. Okay, this is detrimental to those that hold to the old Earth paradigm. Okay, there hasn't been a real rebuttal put forth to this. And as we have seen here, the rebuttals that have been put forth have been addressed. They've been demolished. They've been debunked years ago, but they're just being repeated. Okay. And when it comes to the arguments pertaining to your other radioisotope dating methods, as we put forth, we have yet again discordant dates, not just being discovered and put forth through young Earth creationist research, but from the secular and conventional positions as well. So let's have a look here at the chat, and we are going on an hour and a half. And guys, so we still got 40 people in the chat. This is great. Please check out the website. Anybody new here, we're going to kind of wind it down here, and I'm going to share screen. So new website is up, ready to go. Check this out. Please share it around. We are still going to add to it, but you'll be able to find answers to your questions, answers to the challenges that maybe you've seen being put forth. Tons of great information, tons of great data found in this website. So please share it around, utilize it, utilize the information. Tomorrow, we've got Dr. Grady McMurtry, who's going to be on the show for an epic Q&A. So bring your questions, bring your challenges, bring your criticisms of the young Earth creation model, and we will do our best to address it. So Graham Gold says, here's my stream when this is finished. So go over, check out Graham's stream. As I said, we'll be back tomorrow. Then on Thursday, we'll be back again. And I'm going to try and pick probably a day between Friday and Sunday, because I do have, I thought I could fit in the Homo naledi data into this stream, but I've got a ton of slides, ton of information for you guys. So I think we'll save that for a stream all on its own, probably either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So lastly, bubblegum gun, I appreciate it. And everybody, God bless. We'll see you tomorrow. I hope this stream was helpful. And SFT is out.